Hello. This is the start, in a way, of a new video series on the I Ching, which makes sense for me to do, given that I recently published this book, The Magician's I Ching, which has been pretty well received, and it's a new guide and perspective on the I Ching. And because the I Ching is a central part of the work of the Yi Fa Society, which is an esoteric school, a training program, you could say, for inner alchemy that's working on these two pillars that you're going to see a lot of in the videos that I'm going to be doing in the next while. The I Ching and the Yi Fa form of Qigong. So a meditation and an inner contemplation system that together are the central parts of this process for self-transformation. Now, today I'm going to be talking about the first hexagram, creative. Now, I'm not going to just read out what's already in the book. You can pick up the book from Amazon. You can get it from the publisher as well, Karnak Books, and I strongly recommend it. Of course, you may already be familiar with other translations or versions of the I Ching. I think what makes mine stand out a little bit is just that it is set up to be particularly useful for the person who's practically working with the book, who's not just studying it academically, not just reading it occasionally, but who actually wants to work at mastering the techniques of the I Ching and the mysteries of it and the cosmological insights of it, and especially the inner alchemy of it, the way that the I Ching reveals how you can embody the algoides, the higher self, the true will, what the I Ching calls the superior individual. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about hexagram number 1, creation. And all the hexagrams of the I Ching consist of 6 lines. These lines are either yang, which are the solid lines, or yin, which are the broken lines. The solid lines are forceful, strong, masculine. The divided or broken yin lines are feminine, receptive. Not necessarily that each is good or bad as such, because it depends also on where they're positioned. Part of what the I Ching, as the law of change, suggests is that there are moments where different states are appropriate. There are times when something needs to be strong or solid. There are times where it's not correct for things to be strong and solid. There are times for things to be receptive, passive, weak, for things to break down, or for things to build up, right? There are moments that are right for each of these states. So each hexagram of the I Ching consists of 6 lines, and I'm just making the lines here. The first hexagram, you will note, is special because it consists of 6 solid lines, right? 6 yang lines. So this is, from bottom to top, right, the condition where everything is strong. Just like the second hexagram, you'll eventually see, is composed of 6 broken lines, of 6 divided lines. So the hexagram 1 and 2 are very important because basically the 2 of them summarize the entire rest of the I Ching. And one way to view those 64 hexagrams is that the other 62 represent intermediate states between hexagram 1 and hexagram 2, between the completely yang and the completely yin, between creation and the passive, between the creative force and the receptive force. So, hexagram 1, creation, it tells a story, and what I'm going to be doing in these videos is mainly trying to explain what the story is of each of the hexagrams. And the story that it tells in its lines has to do with a dragon. And the dragon is a symbol of yang, of that creative, powerful, masculine force. And the dragon in this story, in the lines, is at the beginning of the 6 lines, it's inside its cave, it's hidden. And then it begins to emerge. So in line 1, the dragon is hidden. In line 2, it comes out of its cave. And then it's time to seek the superior individual. When it's in its cave, it's not time yet. In line 3, there's danger. And so the dragon is in a state of watchfulness. In line 4, the dragon tries to jump over this gap, flying over the abyss or falling. So that's the moment of risk, the key moment where you might rise up or go down, right? And in the 5th line, he soars through the air. He makes it, and now he's flying. And in the 6th line, he's gone too far, and now he regrets, right? And this story comes out of a very ancient tradition that the Zhu that wrote the I Ching would have known about, but it wouldn't have started with them. It's actually way older than that. It's the story of how to make rain. Rain would have been, of course, very important for ancient peoples. And the understanding that the ancient peoples had in the area where the I Ching eventually was written was that rain was caused by dragons, right? By dragons roaring and thundering and therefore bringing rain. So being able to summon a dragon, to bring one out, was very important in these cultures as a way to generate rain. And before there were ever Confucians or Taoists, we're talking about here 1,000 years or more before Confucius or Lao Tzu ever showed up. So this is prehistory, right? There were these kinds of shaman, who later called the Wu, and one of their main jobs, besides some of the other shaman jobs like exorcisms and things like that and healing, was to cause rain to happen, right? And they would then do these elaborate ceremonies with jade wands, where their task was to call forth the rain. And if they failed, then sacrifice had to be made. And from what we understand, it was usually a cripple that would be sacrificed, and the shaman would try again during this sacrifice to summon forth the rains. And if it didn't work the 3rd time, then from what we understand, it was the Wu himself that was then sacrificed. So this was a tough job. You had to be really good at bringing out the dragon, or else, you had 3 strikes and then you're out, right? So in any case, the dragon here is the symbol of this immense, powerful, creative force. He brings down rain with his roaring that creates thunder in the sky, and then the rain pours down, and then that makes everything grow and creates prosperity, right? So this is the basic story to keep in mind. But the dragon is also symbolic in this case of the superior individual. That's why line 2 in the hexagram says the dragon comes out of his cave. Now you can seek the superior individual, that creative power within yourself. When the moment is right, you have to begin to seek it out. And hexagrams 1 and 2 are particularly important. There's more commentaries on them than in any of the other hexagrams of the I Ching. And that's because they're understood that in their 6 lines, they summarize all of the processes that you will find in all of the other hexagrams. That they explain basically how the lines work. They explain the process of change in its purest forms. So you look at those 6 lines and you understand the nature of how change evolves and is understood in the I Ching. In line 1, things aren't ready yet. The dragon's still in his cave. He's not going to come out, right? In line 2, he emerges from his cave. Now you can begin. So line 2 is about beginnings. In line 3, there's caution, and that's because all of the hexagrams are made of two sets of 3-line elements, right? The bottom 3 lines and the top 3 lines are 2 different elements. In the case of hexagram 1, they're both the same element, they're heaven. But in other hexagrams, they're going to be different. And that jump from 3 to 4, that's where things are tricky, right? That's why in line 4, it's talking about the dragon is jumping. He's crossing the abyss between one state, the lower state, and the other one, the higher state. And this is where he might succeed or he might fail. If he fails, then he's going to fall into this deep pit, into the abyss, right? The commentary on this line is that the superior individual has to accept either, that this is the test, this is the moment of one's ability to overcome limitations or to persevere even in the face of failure in order to grow. The 5th line is where success happens. Here he's roaring in the sky, he's making rain, right? And the 6th line, he's gone too far. He's flown too high, he's overreached, and then he regrets, right? So there's a condition beyond the state where you want to be in any process. When you get the 6th line in a hexagram, it means that you've lingered too long, you've pushed something too far, and now change has to happen. Change should have already begun to happen, and maybe it isn't yet, right? So these lines are a summary of everything you're going to find in every other hexagram of the I Ching. And this story of the dragon is both kind of an outer story, it's based on this traditional historical understanding that these peoples had of how to make rain, but it's also based on this idea of drawing out from within yourself through this great challenge, the superior individual. And that's why the first 4 lines, the first 4 words rather, that you see in hexagram 1, the first 4 words that would be traditionally found in the Zhuyi, in the traditional version of the I Ching in Chinese, the description of the image of this hexagram, which is sublime celestial forces in motion. That's made up of 4 words, Yuan Heng Li Zhen, which I'm probably pronouncing very poorly. But these 4 words represent the 4 great virtues that you have to use in order to embody the superior individual. If you work on these 4 virtues, which are union, discipline or determination, harmony or balance, and truth or wisdom, those are the 4 conditions you have to develop. The superior individual must strengthen his development in the 4 virtues. That's the message to superior individual of this hexagram. So understanding that formula, this is what it's saying right from line 1, right from the very beginning of the very first hexagram of the I Ching, is this is not just about fortune telling, this is about self-transformation. And the whole point of all of the hexagrams of the I Ching is to understand how in any situation you can bring out that superior individual. You can find the right way by using those virtues in different ways based on the particularities of the situation you're in, to choose to be embodying the superior individual rather than the lesser personality, rather than the lower person, right, the inferior person. So you have that choice in every case, and the I Ching has the formulas for you to develop and cultivate the higher self. That's why it's so important. That's everything for today.